Margot Robbie says that she would have passed on the role of Barbie if it wasn't for the fact that Mattel introduced more diverse dolls. Representation matters, ladies and
I don't care, Margot. I don't care.
Stay hot, Margot.
But they've been doing this since the 80s.
Yep. So it says the white, able-bodied teenage fashion model Barbie was first released in 1959, and over the decades, the doll has been criticized for presenting negative gender stereotypes and unrealistic body proportions. That's also the other female cope that's higher than any other cope in history, is the unrealistic expectations of your body, which is just like, don't be fat and be kind of in shape.
Well, I mean, so there is a little
Where
bit.
Where are her organs?
There is a little bit of truth to the the legs are so ridiculously long, and if it was like proportioned like to a human size, it would
Conan the Barbarian looks nothing like an actual human.
I was gonna
doll.
get there. Jeez.
Okay, go on.
Like, but the thing is, like, it's not just applied to women. It's like it goes to men. Dudes have got Conan or He-Man or whatever, and it's like, so the idea that it only applies to one sex or whatever, these things are idealized for a reason. They are supposed to be aspirational.
Yeah. Margot Robbie said, if Mattel hadn't made that change to have a multiplicity of Barbies, I don't think I would have wanted to attempt to make a Barbie film. I don't think you should say this is the one version of what Barbie is, and that's what women should aspire to be and look like and act like. It's just ironic because Margot Robbie is literally a living.
She's like, oh my gosh, it's so hard being
embodiment of the ideal Barbie. And how dare Barbie be white and able-bodied?
Isn't it?
Like, and pretty. Why is it that they're revealing just by like making the diversity push that they're like, what about dolls that represent people with something wrong with them because they're lesser than?
Margot Robbie was just running defense. That's all she was doing. It was just like, I'm going to say this so I can get ahead of any criticism that people throw at me because I am the personification of Barbie.
She was insistent that the film would tackle aspects of the toy's history that have proven contentious.
What they mean by that is problematic, which by that they mean anything that weird liberal arts professors turned writers at crappy outlets for missing link media dissect as a problem, which is not a real problem that exists in society.
It's really problematic that Barbie had arched feet. They needed to give her flat feet.
God. And the thing is, like, in 1959, Barbie was far more representative of the population than today.
Because we were thinner.
Well, the people were thinner. There was probably more white people back then there are now. There were way more Hispanic immigrants than there were in 1959. So I get that they're like, okay, maybe you should have more Barbies that represent a larger, or Barbie's friends or whatever, because they're not all the same person. But whatever. It's like, that doesn't mean that Margot Robbie has to apologize for being a hot white chick.
In 1992, Mattel put out a talking doll that uttered phrases such as, I love shopping, will I ever have enough clothes, and math class is tough, prompting concerns about the example being set for young girls. Am I not supposed to say this? I feel represented by this doll. I love shopping, and math class is tough.
You're too short.
Like, if anybody looked at our falling education standards here in America, they would know that that's representative of just about everyone in this country.
I'm just saying, like, liking materialistic or superficial things or having superficial interests or wanting to look good doesn't negate having other value to your personhood. And a doll that utters those phrases doesn't undermine that.
Wouldn't today it just be like TikTok is fun?
Yeah.
And
be TikTok or Barbie.
No, TikTok is fun, and underwater basket class is so great.
No, it would be all about climate change and about George Floyd and about all of those type of
that stuff.
Comments. That's the stuff that she would say.
Recounted a situation where the CEO of Mattel flew over to one of their sets in London because there was a scene he read on paper that seemed bad for the brand, and they had to perform it, do a table read for him to convince him that it didn't read the same way, but they didn't disclose which scene this was.
Which means it's got to be one of the ones with Will Ferrell, because Will Ferrell plays the Mattel CEO in the movie. I'm very annoyed between this and the stuff with the Netflix story. I hate the weird hypocritical neoliberal people who hate the rich guys until they become them. It's like the politicians who call for like living wages but then pay their canvassers $15 an hour.
It's exhausting,
right? Like, so who won't pay them the living wage that they talk about, and none of them understand how business works. And something in this case, like for Barbie, it's already a naturally diverse product now, so I don't know what the point of this article is other than to sabotage it and put out more bad press for it.
I really do think that she's just running defense. I mean, I don't know about the actual the article who actually published it, but at the same time, I really feel like she's saying this stuff to protect herself from criticism that is incredibly likely, to come her way if she doesn't make some kind of statement.
She's also, she's very media savvy. She seems to know when to shut up and when not to shut up. So catching her in something like this, which is a headline that's going to sound annoying to people, means that she was probably pushed into this question in some way, shape, or form. Well, she didn't volunteer this information.
It's strange that she would say that as if the diversity of Barbies is a new thing when they've introduced this since the 80s with racial diversity. And then their first doll in a wheelchair was put out in 1997, way before the diversity, equity, inclusion stuff reached this like slippery slope point where you can't escape it anymore. In 2023, the first Barbie doll depicted as having Down syndrome was released, and we talked about that. And I was like questioning it because this is made for probably parents to buy for their kids who have Down syndrome or maybe don't, so that they can pat themselves on the back and feel good about themselves, not because these kids have been clamoring for a doll with a disability, because these dolls are supposed to represent ideals and there's nothing wrong with that, you know? And I think it says more about how they feel about people with disabilities than us, you know?
You know how earlier I was saying they should make the Ben Shapiro doll that's like the wind-up doll where you pull the string back and it just spits 1,000 words a minute at you? Maybe they could release like a Barbie one where it's like Tourette's Barbie, where you pull the string back and it just stutters the whole time. It slurs and stutters the whole time.
That would be the greatest Barbie ever released. You pull the string and let it go, and it's just slurs.
And then it stutters.
Just all kinds of racist remarks.
It's like, who's the influencer that has Tourette's? I can't remember.
There
her
are
name.
tons of them now.
There's one of them that like that.
I think some of them are faking.
Sweetenita's great.
Some of them are faking it though. Don't lie. You know. I think a lot of them are faking having like Tourette's or these other like autism, something like that, just to grift.
Yeah.
Because it's trendy to have a disability or like mental illness now.
It's so hilarious, but it's trendy to have some kind of like problem. It's.
Yeah.
Well, I watch old television shows and I laugh at like I hear scenes where like I don't want to be seen as a victim. I'm like, oh man, that dates the shit out of this stuff because that is not the way it's looked at
Can't
nowadays.
you tell I'm a victim?
You mentioned that the Dr. Barbie is trans.
Yes, it's which means
so
it's
only men can be doctors now.
Mattel tacitly telling you that only men can be doctors. That is true. And then what they could have done is they could have done the nurse as a trans guy, because then only women can be nurses.
Well, that scene where Ryan Gosling is looking for a doctor and he thinks that only men in white coats can be doctors was weird, because wouldn't it make more sense for Ken coming from the Barbie universe to think only women can have those jobs?
Well, that would make too much sense,
right?
It gets in the way of the feminist messaging.
I have hopes for the Barbie movie that it's not going to be like a feminist train wreck. Genuinely, I do. But
it's not.
They're not helping themselves with some of the media.
No, it's just the last couple of days of articles.
Yeah.
Like most of the promotion for this movie has been really, really good. It's like what it really feels like to me. It's like these actors, they can't help themselves. The studio's like, please, anything but the intersectional feminism. Like, we already let you make your feminist movie. Let us market it the right way.
And they're bad at it though, because all these inconsistencies and things that don't make sense that you guys are pointing out. The reason that you're seeing that is because they don't actually know the theory behind what they're trying to do.
Yeah.
And that's why you get like feminists doing unfeminist things, or what are ostensibly feminist, but if you really look at it, a little more deeply, it's actually against feminism and stuff like that. And you get that when you deal with intersectionality, but don't really understand the theory.
OnlyFans Barbie coming soon to shelves near you.
To me, most of this stuff, it reeks of people who are insecure in their work, meaning they wish their job held more importance than it does.
I think
so.
That
They try to attribute more meaning to what they're making than there is.
There are people in Hollywood and in the entertainment industry that are not going to work with you unless you make these kinds of stories and stuff like that. So I don't think that it's a symptom of people having a significant desire to write these stories, because these stories they all have essentially the same story, I'm
talking about the actors who were giving these
promotions from Dirt Devil. He said, "Sorry, I'm still tripping. I realize I'm old and out of touch. Haven't been a teen for 30 years. We would have a rifle in the truck to go hunting after class. Wasn't it that way for you, Phil? Shouldn't the teen years be prep for adulthood with responsibility?"
It was not that way for me because I grew up in Massachusetts. It wasn't a very rural area. It was definitely the suburbs. But it was still legal to do that kind of stuff in the 90s. It was probably when they were actually starting to push to get rid of gun racks and stuff. But when I was a teenager, I didn't have to get all kinds of a bunch of stuff for a license. I could just get a license to carry or a license to have a gun and stuff.
And
so
at the end of the day, it would have been just as insidious back then if you had some, back then, sure, you might have interacted with a lot of adults as a teenager. Were any of those adults people your parents didn't know about that weren't able to vet or know who was in your child's life? And if you had, Jim 2 doors down, who was a friend of the family, and Jim said, "Hey, what if I mail you my underwear?" That's a problem, right? For a 13-year-old in the 70s, for a 13-year-old in the 80s, and for a 13-year-old in the 90s.
Some things should never change.
It's the underwear being mailed to kids is an omnipresent problem. It should never go away. It should always be bad.
The people watching this segment on Barbie are going to be so confused why we're talking
about this. Yeah. I'll cut it out.
Whatever.
Yeah.
Back to Barbie.
They're already talking about making a sequel, by the way, and the movie's not even out yet.
Barbie 2, Electric Boogaloo.
They're just going to make a spin-off with Kate McKinnon being the weird Barbie, which is a clever idea in and of itself, but she just looks like anyone who you would find in a gender studies class.
I don't know who Kate McKinnon is.
You don't?
Not off the top of my
She's
head.
playing weird Barbie in the movie, who's the Barbie that you cut all of her hair off and draw on her face.
Oh, God.
Gets turned into satanic rituals by kids trying to be edgy. And what I meant, Phil, when I was saying that it reeks of people wanting to seem more important than they were, I'm not talking about the writers of these articles. I'm talking about the actors who give the interviews and talk about, they dissect what Barbie means and what Barbie means as a feminist icon to culture. It reeks of people who are like, look, I wasn't important enough to go into politics. I wasn't important enough to get a job at a university. I wasn't good enough to get a job at a university. I'm an actor. And what's sad is that should be fine. You have a job. Your job is to entertain people. There's nothing wrong with that. You don't need to ascribe a ton of deep motive or importance to something like a Barbie movie. It's not that deep.
That's why they say politics is show business for ugly people.
Exactly.
And show business is just politics for stupid people.
I really think they should have just made this movie for kids. They should have just gone the Super Mario Brothers route and made an animated movie for girls.
They've already done animated movies before, so it wouldn't be seen the same way. But they really did some charity work with the casting for the other Barbies, because when you see Margot Robbie lined up with these other actresses, including the trans one, it's just it doesn't make much sense. They should have had Madison Beer, Paris Hilton, other hot bitches who also look like they would be dolls. Yeah. Not Issa Rae and Hari Neff.
You're not allowed to pick people that are the feminine ideal like you used to be able to. If we made this movie 20, 30 years ago, they would have had the hottest women. And it wouldn't have mattered race. They would have just picked the hottest women of all the races. Yeah. And it would have been fine.
I mean, they did that for the diverse college brochure in Little Mermaid.
You know what we do here? They make a Bratz doll movie, and the Bratz doll movie just has all the smoke.
They're probably already planning that.
If we get a Bratz doll movie, and it's just a bunch of skanks that are...
There has already been a live-action Bratz movie, but it did not do well.
Really?
Yeah.
When?
I can't remember.
Holy
It must have
crap.
been, like
Who
the
was
late
in it?
2000s.
I didn't know that. That's amazing.
Bratz
Yeah.
movie.
It's yeah. So we just get all the like. You know what they'll do? They'll make the Bratz doll movie with a bunch of influencers, hot influencers. So it'll be
Ice
like
Spice.
Ice or
2007.
I guess like would Amaranth qualify? Like does Amaranth end up in the?
Gotta have the big blown up lips.
Yep.
Yeah, the Bratz dolls were always seen as like the, your parents don't want you to have that doll. They want you to have Barbies.
Because Barbie was less controversial.
Yeah, and I don't know why.
Yeah.
Barbie wasn't a brat.
I guess.
The Bratz dolls kind of like had that that aesthetic, right? Like
They were supposed to be the brat kids. They were the kids that didn't listen to mom and dad. They didn't do the things they were supposed to, right?
I liked Bratz dolls more than the Barbies just because I thought their clothes were cuter.
There you go.
But
All right. I really do think that Margot Robbie right here is playing about as smart as he could. Like, if the run up to a feminist Barbie movie and all they get out of her is one article with like a bad headline that's kind of annoying, I think that she managed the media storm as well as
is this
he could.
supposed to be a feminist Barbie show, or is it
It's
just
a feminist. It's Greta Gerwig is a feminist director, so yes. But here's the thing: they've done a really good job of not marketing it in that respect. It's been marketed as fun, and that's what they should be doing, marketing this as fun. But it seems like these outlets just hate fun. They
Yeah.
hate you. They hate me. They hate fun. And what they
hate
want to do is
fun.
they want to torpedo any chance that you or I might have of 5 minutes away from any type of social justice messaging. And to be fair, they're not wrong that it's still a Greta Gerwig movie. But if they were really in the pocket of these studios, they would shut up right now and be talking about, here are the 5 hottest Barbie dolls over the ages. And they would just make
Yeah.
stuff like that. They would not be releasing articles like this.
yeah.
So
Someone asked me if I ever got into the Cheetah Girls. Yes, I did. And that was also like when diversity and like girl power type feminism was the norm. And now it's just
you need to bring back
all negative and
plus like somebody was talking about like the Spice Girls recently. I'm like, can you imagine how depressing that would be now? Like if because they're all feminists now. Like they all talk feminist stuff now. Like they'd come back now and it would just be awful.
I mean,
like,
they were feminists.
yeah, but they
it
were
was in a
feminist at a
different-
time when it was very, very like lighthearted.
Yeah.
They're feminists, but that was back when like women were like the focus of feminists. Now the focus of feminists is trans women or
Yeah.
I posted a picture on Twitter, like right when I restarted my Twitter, it was the picture of the Spice Girls from the Spice Girls movie where they meet the alien. It's like, do you remember there was a time in America where we sent the Spice Girls to meet alternate life forms? They were our ambassadors to the world. We peaked, if we didn't peak at Shia LaBeouf making out with Megan Fox on a car in Transformers 2, or at the end of Transformers 1, we definitely peaked in 1998 when the Spice Girls met aliens and were our first contact with another life. Thanks for watching. Listen to full episodes of Pop Culture Crisis on Spotify.
Keep up with us on social media and make sure you subscribe and ring that bell so you never miss the show. Bye, guys.